I can.
Do you see me now?
Not see you. I hear you though. Now I see you.
Yay!
Yay.
Don't know what happened there.
You're channeling some super left eye vibes. I'm loving it.
Mm-hmm. Or Nelly, you know.
Or Nelly.
Maybe they're like
andale, mami, iya. Uh-oh. I'm channeling some Infinite Logic vibes. My boy. My waifu.
Nerdvana.
I finally got my shirt in the mail. I was the last one to get it. I'm supposed to be the waifu, but I got it last. It's fine. That's my happy time 10. That's what made me happy this week. I finally got.
And I got the Royal Thickness for Nerdvana channel.
John, look at that thick ass love. Anything make you especially happy this week?
Whew. Biden signed those STEM checks. And a bitch was ecstatic. Okay? Ecstatic.
Okay.
I got like 1,400 bills to put it towards bots.
Fam said 1,400 bills, so each bill gonna get $1.
It is what it is. It is. Like,
because you get $1, you get $1, you get $1. You get 50 cents because I don't really fuck with you like that.
You know, nickels and dimes.
Sometimes it be like that. No, I feel that. I think the thing that made me happiest was getting my first shots. I understand why for some people that is not good news, but for me that is the first step to not recoiling in fear.
Died.
I wonder who it was that almost died out here in these streets.
Moving on.
You sure you want to move on? Because yes. We could talk about it. Maybe the silver lining is that you did. That person. Maybe the silver lining is that person didn't die.
Safe space.
Can the silver lining be that person didn't die?
Yes.
All right. So then there we are. Silver lining is the person didn't die, y'all. That's where we at. That's where we at with that. But my happy time, my 7 minutes of heaven is that I got my first COVID vaccine shot and I am on the path to being vaccinated. Which is exciting for me because, I be out here dying from everything. You so much as cough in my direction and now I got a sinus infection and I'm out for 3 months. So anything to keep me alive is what I'm looking forward to. Zajac, y'all with us?
Yes, we are.
Hey.
All right, give me a second. When you're ready, just click video.
Okay, I'm ready. So click it.
Are we gonna see our beautiful Zay?
We are. I'm interested in what color the wig is. How slayed is it today?
How snatched is she today? Yes, Auntie! Come through!
She's giving me Beyonce
all the way ready. It's a look. It's a whole look.
I see it.
I see, said the blind man to the deaf mute. I see. I fucks with it heavily. Fucks with it. We in the middle of our happy time 10, our 7 minutes of heaven. What made you happy this week?
I'm alive.
That makes two people. We are happy for life. More life, more life.
Man.
That is definitely a blessing. Damn, had you like hair, barely. I see it in your face. Like, you look beautiful, baby.
Thank you. I really. Yeah.
You're beautiful.
Thank you. I will take
beautiful out here in these streets.
Thank you very much.
Out here killing it. Appreciate you for the luck. Loquita, aka Nat Nat. Hey boo. How you doing?
Nat's in the chat.
Nat's in the chat. Burrs. Oh, is this episode being sponsored by Trouble Studios, aka when your computer is in trouble? Hit up Ajax. Ajax the Don One. Get help, because sometimes them computers, them viruses be rough.
Facts.
When that computer is sputtering, it's time to hit up Ajax and Trouble Studios to get you a quick fix.
Yeah.
And she, when I tell you she got you, fam, she got you. Ajax, tell everybody in the chat. Are we all rocking beeswax chapstick? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that the way?
No, this cocoa butter.
Oh,
mine is the peppermint.
It is. That is what it is. Tell us what made you happy this week. You too, Loquita. What made you happy this week? What brought you some joy?
Zay's alive.
No, just got home waiting to hear the tea. Yes, what made you happy? Yes, look it up. What made you happy? What brought you some joy this week? Before we dig into this topic, because half your hosts are educators, and we finna talk about the educational system.
Okay.
So it might get a little dicey in here, so we need to start with some good vibes before Ajax tell me all the reasons she need a new job.
Oh wow.
Can you say in code? Maybe Loquita can tell us in code. Say in Spanish. Zay and I speak Spanish. We be good. We understand. We be straight. I can't speak for Calba and Ajax. Y'all better Google Translate and figure it out. I don't know what to tell y'all. But tell us. Queremos el té. Oh, honey, there's always a silver lining. I promise you. There is always something that brings you joy. Like, baby, you woke up, okay? You got a job, okay? You got beautiful babies, okay? And those babies are beautiful and brilliant and healthy, okay? Those are all things to be grateful for this week. See? When I tell you, there's always something. Always something to bring you some joy. It's always a joyous moment. Always something. All right, you ready to... you ready to start it off?
Me? No. Do the honors.
What? Fam said lose virginity at 15. Hold up. 15 is... I'm sorry. I'm looking at chat and
I'm like...
Fam said that the baby trying to lose the V card at 15. Well, at least the baby is talking about it and not just doing it and being like, look, Ma, you a grandma.
Progress.
So,
that's growth.
Blessings on blessings. At least the youth them is educating the mama in this case. I don't know why my title is not updating. I don't understand because I definitely updated it and my title is like no, because that's not my title. I'm not playing Call of Duty and it don't want to update. But all right, so today's topic. Oh, he said he likes porn. Your child is talking about porn, but so what is he learning in school? Wait a minute.
Shout out to that.
What is happening? Fam said who raised him, not me. DK a story. Interesting. You gotta, like I said, you be grateful for them babies. Look at that. Speaking of what are they learning in school, let me ask y'all a question. What do we value more? Where do you place your value? Book smarts or street smarts? If you had to choose one, if you gotta choose one,
you can only choose one.
You can only choose one.
Street smarts.
Street smarts for sure.
Why street smarts? Why do you feel like okay? So first we need to figure out how are we defining street smart.
All right, wait. Let me ask this question before I lock in street smarts. Was I raised where I lived, or was I raised somewhere else, like a suburb or something like that?
Nah. That's not being factored here. What we gotta first figure out is how we define the street smart. Well, that's why I'm saying. Well, before we even unpack all that, we first need to know. Well, how are we defining street smarts, right? Because we don't even have a concrete. What if your definition of street smart is different from my definition?
Feeling they mean how not to get your ass kicked.
Yes, that and
as a part of it, like it's just street smarts, because I know people who aren't book savvy, that are street savvy, that are like living life, living good life now.
Okay, so street smarts for you is like being able to survive in your neighborhood.
In my neighborhood,
you were born and raised in.
In my neighborhood,
not just your neighborhood.
It's the ability to adapt to any surroundings, no matter what's thrown my way. That's part of street smart. That's part of that. Like,
so then, can I ask how come when I asked the question, you were like, "Where do I live?" Before I answer this question, if part of being street smart is you can adapt, why does it matter where you live?
Because where you grow up will determine
teach you how
whether
to be,
you need the street smarts or not.
Yeah, it'll teach you. Where you grow up is kind of like your advisory of your street smart. So
where you grow up is advisory.
Yeah, essentially, like it's
okay.
When you get your beginning starts.
What neighborhoods, what areas would you say you don't need street smarts?
Stanford, Connecticut.
Long Island. You went to school in Connecticut. Do you feel like you need a street smarts to be in Connecticut?
Absolutely not. It's a bunch of old white folk. They're more scared of me than I am of them.
I'm saying,
no.
That's retirement town.
See?
So you feel like you were fine with book smarts to survive in Connecticut. Like you don't need to understand the ways of the street jungle over there to survive and thrive.
For me, my question was, what's the difference between street smart and black smart? Because I still needed to be smart when I was outside because I'm in a state of all white people. They could just as easily fuck me up
it's not
as the black bully in my urban high school. So, like, that was my first question. Was like, what's the difference between black smart and street smart? The whole point is to right?
Street smart is not don't got nothing to do with race. You could be white and be street smart.
Yeah.
You could be literally anything and be street smart. So
yeah. Lokita says, growing up all over the city, in order to adapt and be flexible, you need a sprinkle of both. So Lokita argues that you can't pick one or the other. But Lokita, the question here is,
that's what I'm saying.
If you have to pick one, right? If you have to place more value on one, because typically you always have parents that are like, go to school, stay in school, don't drop out of school. Now, parents, when they say that, are typically instilling in you that you need to value your book smarts. You got to go to school, don't drop out of school, right? There's value in that education. They are inherently telling you that school education, book smarts are more valuable than street smarts. At that juncture, if they're forcing you to stay in a school situation where you're like, I don't want to be here, I don't even want to go to school, and the idea of you dropping out is oftentimes frowned upon, society is kind of pushing the idea that being a dropout is like you trash, you lazy, you're a nobody. Like that's kind of the connotation that's often pushed on people. I'm not saying whether I agree with it or not. I'm simply saying that that's typically the connotation. Somebody's a dropout, they're like, oh, you're lazy, good for nothing. Like that's typically the connotation that was in my hood. If you dropped out, oh, you trash, you ain't doing nothing with your life. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm asking. And I grew up in the projects, so don't come for me, Jax. I grew up in the suburbs.
First of all, it's different levels of projects. That's number one. Number two,
my life, I got to fight.
It's
right. Like I grew up in the projects too, but I ain't grew up in Brownsville's projects. You know what I'm saying? Like, or Bed-Stuy. Like, it's now different. No, but seriously,
you start really dragging.
No. It's legit in the city. There's different pockets where it's like, oh,
look at this. If you drop out and you ain't doing shit, you a bum. Look at that. But what if you street smart? Are you still a bum if you dropped out, but you wild street smart?
If you wake up at 7 a.m. to stand on a corner, yes. I'm sorry. That big fish, little pond shit is not, no. If you're going to be street smarts, you're going to be street smarts to get the fuck out the hood.
Exactly.
You dumb if you street smart and you stay in the hood. That'll make sense. And you making money.
How do you use your streets? Give me an example of how one would use their street guile to get out of the hood without a formal education.
Are we allowed to say that or no?
You better use your book smarts to say it. You on candid camera.
When you become a sneakerhead and open up a shop,
that's one.
Trading the highest high-end sneakers. Like some people have made a business of it. So like,
what up, Kim?
you know, the
like
chat or whatever. They have stylists that they're like, okay, I want a Birkin rare leopard print bag. It's their job to go anywhere in the world to find this one bag.
Shout out to
So
that.
translated that.
Okay.
Shout
Now, Maddie, was that you using your street smarts or your book smarts?
No, but really.
No, okay.
That's how I lived. That's how we lived in Jersey. Like I would buy sneakers that I knew would flip, that I could flip for double or triple the price. So I was doing that, and like people I know, like legit, they're living off selling shoes. Like that's what they do.
Right.
They get shoes and flip them. Like so, there is a thing of knowing you need some bit of regular standard education, but street smarts, it can take you places, man.
Street smarts.
So you're saying you can't. You inherently you would need both, right? Is there one you feel you need more of, or do you feel like no, you need both equally?
Living in New York, you need a.
No, but really, like I personally believe you need both. Like
right, but is there one that you feel like you're gonna need more of this, or
it depends?
Okay, well let me.
So give me an example.
Okay, I'll speak while she think on that. I'll speak to you. Listen, I'm very proud to be a book smart person. I'm proud of that, but being raised to be street smart took precedent in my household. I'm just gonna, if you can read as many books as you want, get all A's, go to college, get your master's degree. But if you don't know how to handle certain situations when it's time, you don't know what you need to know. Essentially.
Okay.
So
you don't know what you need to know. Can you give me an example? Wait. Let me finish my sentence. Use your book smarts to frame it however it needs to be framed.
All right.
Give me an example.
I got
Give me an example of when you needed to use your street smarts over your book smarts.
Okay, cool.
It's not like I think almost everyone has been in this situation. If you in a neighborhood you don't really know, and motherfuckers be like, "Oh, your shoes is really fire. What's your size?"
Right, here you go.
You never say your shoe size. You say my size.
Right.
Because as soon as you say your shoe size, if it's close to theirs or someone they know, they're knocking you out.
Yeah, they're gonna rob you.
Like that's one example. Like a lot of people have been in that situation, so it's like,
or like when you're in a crowded area and you see two weird looking guys trying a little bit hard to be down with the rest of us, you gotta know that those are DTs. So whatever you're doing that may or may not get you in trouble, you might want to stop doing it because the DTs are watching you. That's something you need to know.
So look at that says my parents valued book smarts, but I had to have a little street smart so I wouldn't be swindled out of my Pokemon cards. Yo, that's facts because those Pokemon cards are valuable nowadays, and
bro,
listen.
I had a retirement fund of Pokemon cards. Let's just put it like that.
Yo, fam.
They wildin', right?
Wait, you got robbed? Hold up. Story time with Loquita. Tell us that story. What the hell?
She's wishing she had street smarts. She's saying she didn't have street smarts, or she wouldn't have been robbed.
Oh snap! Nah, you got to tell us what happened. How did they con you, fam? Because now you got hella street smarts. Now I guess you wised up real quick. But also, Calba, you are frozen as all holy hell, and your frozen face looks real uncomfortable. Okay, so we are in agreement. You need both, but we are also even Motive was like, girl, that face, yes. We are in agreement that depending on where you are, one is going to be needed more for the situation. So if you're in an urban area, probably you're going to need a little bit more street smart. help you out.
Because honestly, if you're in a rural area or a suburban area, you have the privilege of not having to need street smarts. So it depends on where you grew up and who you hang around and who your neighborhood idols were. Like those things are a factor to whether you carry street smarts in your arsenal or not. It really comes with whether you have a certain level of privilege or not. So
Loquita says that street smarts are needed to survive in school and in the business world, and that it's easier to code switch if you have the knowledge of both worlds. So being able to navigate makes it a little bit easier to manage. Motive says, yes, they speaking straight facts. They always drops knowledge bombs on us. We just gotta make sure we don't get blown up by all the knowledge bombs. You know what I'm saying? They be out here. She be out here shining. Loquita wants to know what you have to say, Calbo.
Personally, I think street smarts is more important because sometimes through street, you're going to learn what you would have learned in your books just with real life experience. Like actually being able to understand the nuance and just the theory. So it's like, I can kind of replicate book smarts using street smarts. I mean, the chances of me dying in the process is higher, but it can be achieved. But you can't really replace street smarts with book smarts. Like, you could read 1,000 books and still not survive a day on the street.
You telling me if I read True to the Game, I'm not going to understand how to...
Nah, man. She started wilding like True to the Game? Like, oh.
If I read Be More Careful,
You took it there with that.
No.
If I read some of these guttas,
No.
If I read the hood books, it's not going to teach me a thing or two about how to survive. I feel like that's going to give me a little bit of a safe.
But like I've seen book smart people become very sharp with their business because they had to be. So when it's time to go like legit or they have a legitimate business, they're able to. I mean, look at Jay-Z. Jay-Z used to do certain illegal activities, and now he's
allegedly
a multi-billion-dollar guy who knows how to run a business. You couldn't have done it the other way around.
Absolutely not. I fully agree.
Loquita apparently laughed at me.
It wouldn't have worked.
Right.
Well, see, for me, I have always been the person that I learned from your experience. Like true to the game. Teach me a couple things, sometimes because for me, I learned through other people's experience. I don't have to put my hand on a hot stove to know that the stove is hot. You could tell me that it's hot. I can read somewhere that, hey, stoves typically reach certain amounts of degrees, and that is enough for me to know don't touch the stove. I can come up with my own theories of how to avoid touching the stove. I don't need to experience that myself. And because of that, I have always been able to derive my own street smarts, if you will, because my dad sheltered the hell out of me. Like, y'all know, like, my father made sure he didn't want me to be in the streets. So there were certain things about the streets he didn't want to put me on to, because he was like, that's not the life I want you to have. There were certain things that he told me as like a man telling his daughter, but a lot of the stuff he was like, you're not supposed to be in the projects. If I teach you the streets, you're going to be in it. So I'm not going to teach you these things. But then my aunt was like, here, girl, read this book. And then I was like, oh, so that's what that means. Oh, I forgot what book it was. I'm pretty sure if I say the scene, Zay is going to know what book I was. But there was like some scene in the book. Because Zay, you read like I read. So, and I feel, I can't, and it's not even like an obscure book. But it was like, in this book, in this hood world, it was like a code. Like they were doing illegal activities. And it was like, you knocked on the door, and they knew from the knock that you shouldn't have been there, and homie dropped to the floor. And
iceberg slam, but
but it was like, from reading that book, I was like, oh, so like that, because I was always like, how do you not get caught? How do you do all this stuff in plain sight? How do y'all not get caught? And like from reading stuff like that, I was like, oh, that's how y'all don't get caught. Y'all just have these intricate little systems within your world of illegal activities that just prevent y'all from. Well, don't prevent, but you extend your freedoms for as long as you can. But it was like stuff like that. Did I have to go out and experience that myself? No. But I was able to read. And then I would then see some of the signs in my own neighborhood and be like, oh, that's what you're doing. So now when I see you doing a certain thing, I could clock it a little better because I am now privy to it. Now I've seen an example of it. From the things I would see when I went to my mom's house. So my mom was the one that was like, "Oh, let's watch Blue Hill Avenue. Let's watch New Jack City." That was my mom. That was like, "Let's watch these things. Let's watch She's Gotta Have It." That was mommy. That dad was like Disney Channel. Mommy was like, "Let's watch." So it was stuff like that put me on. Other than that, I would have never known. My father was like, "That's not your life. Your life is books. 95s or you failed. If you bring home a 94, you don't have a summer anymore because you shouldn't have failed." Like, so
what's crazy is I had that life too. It just
no, and it was only for me. My brother got the street smarts. My father put my brother on, but it was for me. My dad was like, "No." You hide.
I would argue that kind of experiencing your father was your street smarts, because as much as he's trying to protect you from it,
Dad a criminal.
part of protecting you from it. What?
I said you just called Dad a criminal. Tell him.
Part of protecting you from it is to kind of use himself as a filter. He's a product of that environment, so So you kind of, through experiencing him, still experience the streets, just with like a really high guardrail. It's like you still bowling, but the guardrail is there. So you weren't really just taking book smarts.
He put the trainer wheels on my streets experience.
Exactly. So you avoided like the dark, deep, mentally scarring, warlike parts of it, but you had binoculars. You could see.
I'm a like from over there, a safe distance.
Right.
Yeah, because I will never forget. It was like there was like an argument going on, right? And now we were all in my house, and I will never forget. My aunt was about to go to the window, and my father was like, when they arguing like that, you don't go to that window. That's how you get hit by a straight bullet. And I was like, who would think like that? But after, he is the reason I don't go near windows when people getting loud. So when they were like, "Oh, did you hear? Did you go?" I was peeking. I don't peek. I mind my business. I be over here. I be in the cut trying not to get hit with a straight bullet. Like, because that's one of the lessons that my dad and that wasn't a thing I would have learned in school. There's no like my teacher, Miss Lombard, was never going to talk to me about that. She was never going to tell me. I was never going to read that in a book. You know what I mean? But I feel like I wouldn't have to know that if I lived in like the Hamptons or something like that. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Is that? But then I also feel like there are some things that I was taught in school that I'm like, when am I using this information? When am I using this knowledge? I feel like I use a lot of the things that I learned on my own than I was taught. I also feel like I barely remember half the stuff I was taught. Everything that I remember is stuff that I sought on my own. And so I pose that question to you. Do you feel like, how much of your school do you use in your everyday life? Like, out of the things that you've learned throughout your entire educational career, how much do you feel like I apply this every day? Zay's face is like, I write my name on papers.
For me, it's really like math. Like when we was learning algebra, granted I am really great in math, but I was like, I'm never going to use this in real life anytime. But now that I'm studying cryptography, like information security, I'm using all of this shit that I learned in 8th grade, and I'm like, wow, so there really is a purpose for this shit. But like,
on you.
Unless like you going into certain fields, you like history. Granted, yes, I know a lot of history. I do not use that in my day-to-day life. English, I clearly don't use in my everyday life. It's really bad. But like the skills I've learned in English, I really don't use in my everyday life, which I should be using. You know what I'm saying? But math and science, like learning the stuff that I've learned in math and science, I still pretty much use daily. So yeah.
I feel like education past like basic math being useful until you like maybe college, and then you learn about more soft skills, if that makes sense. So like up until basic math, you're learning the hard skills, how to do math, how to do geometry, where are the states, blah, 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 all the other subjects, how to read. Skip to that, and then you get to college and you get to take those classes that teach you how to be a decent human being. What is it like to look at the world and the globalization of America? You start to study those like more nuanced topics that are kind of in multiple fields. You start to think like the bigger picture. So I feel like college is where you learn more about your social issues and your identity and how to kind of, I guess, approach the world you're about to enter. And then like middle school and high school is just like, why am I learning this? And then prior to that is all the basic skills you're going to need in your day-to-day life, which is reading and math. That's how I see it.
So, but do you use anything that you learned in those?
Besides basic math, no. Like, not at all.
Zay.
You
knew this was coming.
No, I mean, it almost makes me mad when I think about it because anything I touched academically, I excelled at. But now, none of like literally nothing. I use nothing. I mean, I guess I have a 4E except after C because I'm a writer. But beyond that, you couldn't tell me. Listen, I couldn't tell you nothing. Like, and for Asian situation, I'm like the exact opposite. I know how to count, and I count money, and that's all I need to know. I know how to read. You know that's about. But beyond that, I'm like all the things I worked so hard to excel at while I was in school, and that's for college as well. While I was in school, while I was doing it, I worked so hard. I put so much pressure on myself, only to now be into the real world, and it's like I wrote this paper, and this don't even matter anymore. Like what I was doing, what I was talking about, what I was so passionate about at the time. I feel like I learned more just by like living, just by, surviving through moments in history. I'm learning from those things more than I did from anything in school. So, which is crazy because I really did love school a lot, but
facts.
I think it's different for me as a teacher. I feel like I ended up using more of the skills, but do I use anything that I learned directly? No. I couldn't tell you what I remembered in school. I remember absolutely nothing from school. Everything that I teach to my students now is stuff that me and my co-teachers have come up with together. It's nothing that I have retained from my own studies. It's always things that I have like refreshed my memory on. I think the only thing that I have retained for the most part is math, because math was always my favorite subject. I begrudgingly was really good at ELA because my grandmother was an English professor and she ain't play that. And not to age myself, but I was writing papers before, like when the Apple computers were the fat ones and they were all those colors, like the blue, the pink, like so. I would have to handwrite my paper, and then she would come at it with the red pen before I could type it, and I would be pissed the hell off when she would come back and it was mad red, and I had to re-handwrite it before she would let me type. And I'm like, why can't I just type it before you attack it? So I have to go through all this work. But now, because of her, I'm an excellent writer. Like now, I'm one and done. I don't even outline what is a draft. What is that? Well, I'm gonna write it this one time, you're gonna take it this one time and give me my A+ and go on about your business. Like, but history, what is that? I didn't even like history. I didn't care about science. I cared about psychology. That's what I studied in college. But do I remember half of the things that not showing off, but that's just but that was my grandmother. That wasn't even my school. That was someone else outside of the educational system that was kind of like I don't want to write this thing 3 times. So how do I make sure I don't write it 3 times? It was like operant conditioning. That wasn't even like the school did a good job of teaching me how to write. No, my grandmother terrified me, and I didn't want to write the same thing 3 times. So when I think about my relationship with the educational system, it was very much forced on me. It wasn't like I liked school because I liked my friends. I'm one of those people that enjoys situations for who I'm around. I'll play a game I can't stand because I like the people I'm playing with. I can't stand playing Destiny, but I like my friends, so I'm gonna play with my friends. I don't really care about Fortnite, but I'll play Fortnite because if my friends are playing Fortnite. So in that same vein, I didn't really, school was neither here nor there for me, but all my friends were there, so I was going. I excelled because I didn't have a choice. So as far as remembering what I learned, I remember nothing, which is weird as an educator. And then try to expect kids to come in and be like, how do you not remember what we just talked about yesterday? And I don't remember. And then the flash forward, and it's like, your daughter very well might, because I don't even build. And surviving in Fortnite is very much based on being able to build, and I don't do that. I'd be like, Asia, shoot them. That's how I play Fortnite. I call for Ajax. It's like my relationship with education is real weird. Like, I value it, yes. I think everyone should be able to read, write, and do basic arithmetic. You should at least know what math to do. But you got a calculator. So, like, you don't got to do what I had to do, which was memorize formulas. I never forget my 6th grade teacher tried to make us memorize pi. And I'm like, why? Why do we have to do this? So it's just, and now what are we using it for? Why? Why are we doing that? You can just Google it. Google is a beautiful thing. Google's so beautiful.
It is.
Thank you, Google. Or as I said Ajax the video the other. What did they say in the video, Jax? Gula gula.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they call Google. Gula gula. So like my next question to you guys is, what skills do you feel you wish you learned in school? Like, what do you feel like, I wish they talked about this, and I'm so mad I had to learn this on my own?
We don't got time. We really don't. I
got things. 3 things. Yes, what Maddie said, finance.
Yes.
For me,
I'm talking about generational building of wealth.
Right.
Like what CDs are, what interest earning savings accounts are, how to do 401k, all that stuff.
Hello.
Putting your kid's name on a credit card and keeping it below 10% to build up their credit by the time they graduate college.
Financial literacy. Come on now. Come on. Like something. I ain't heard nothing.
Does economics not count as what y'all talking about? I'm just asking.
No.
Okay.
Well, you went to a specialized high school, so they don't have that in public school. There's no economics.
Yeah, public school, the economics class was to teach you what microeconomics is, macroeconomics, a couple of historical economies that crashed and burned, and then that's it.
Loquita says, I feel like basic math is important. I had a math teacher say, if you don't like math, you don't like money. Funny, I say that now as a math teacher because I truly believe that. And English is valuable because you want people to know from jump that you know what you're talking about and sound professional.
See, okay. I don't like that. I know what the fuck I'm talking about, but my vernacular is not that large. Like, it's not.
So you're saying people assume
like,
you don't know.
Yeah, people
credit to what you say. That's what Loquita says.
You said what?
Loquita added that it gives credit to what you say. So the way that you say, the way that you present adds weight to what you're saying. So like, it's kind of like the Cardi B syndrome. Like sometimes Cardi B, she be spitting facts, but nobody listens to her sometimes because of how she's saying it.
But that's what I'm saying. I think that's less about knowing English and more about, again, like code switching and knowing your surroundings and knowing who to be, which part of yourself when. I think that's tied into that.
I think that's what Lokita's saying. Lokita's saying if you have a firm grasp of the English language, you're able to present.
Yeah, she said yes. Nah, that says appreciate you.
See? And Jax is like, fuck that. You get what you get. I know what the fuck I said. Jax is basically like, that's why I have a Z.
Like I don't really like professional. Like you shouldn't have to be professional at all times in life.
I
Not
agree.
all times, but there's a time and a place to.
Like even in professional settings, like some people get really like
snooty.
Yeah, or feel uncomfortable when they're around certain people, so it makes them stutter and trip over their words. But if you were able to express yourself how you normally express yourself, it doesn't have to go all the way down to like ebonics. But I'm saying, like, if you could just express yourself how you would normally talk to like your family and friends, I think things would be a little more easier for some people. Just saying.
Do you feel like that would? Should like code switching be something that should be touched on in school? Is that like maybe that could be no? Okay, I see a no and I see a yes. Do you ladies want to elaborate?
It could be a weird situation really quickly. I think the idea of it being taught in school is beautiful, but I think it actually being taught is gonna end up being disrespected and taken and mayonnaised really fast. So maybe
Charlemagne.
Maybe not. Right. That's the only nice way I could have said what I was about to say. I had to rein it in. So, but
that was like
the idea of it being taught in schools is beautiful, but it would have to be taught by like people who look like us, people who sound like us, people who don't want to emulate us but not understand our struggle. Like it would have to be protected while taught. And so do I think it could be successfully taught? Probably not, but you know, it's a nice idea, which is why I said yes, because the idea is nice. But in reality, in execution, that would go really, really bad, really, really fast. So.
Lokita says, my thing is a double-edged sword because you should be authentic and still be taken seriously. But if you don't have some type of grasp, then people will only be able to understand you. Will not only be able to understand you because they don't come from where you come from, but at the same time, why should I speak like you?
Right.
Right, because the default speaking like is technically.
I got you. What she's trying to say is default speaking is technically already racialized because they assume that the regular default speaking is speaking white, and that's proper. Those two things go hand in hand, and that by itself is a problem. Speaking proper, being racialized is part of the issue, and why people don't, well, at least people where we come from, don't really see the value in that. Like you're just trying to show that your way is the best way, and that's not the only way. So I see what you're saying. It's okay. I got you.
Yeah, means they translate with you at all times. You be straight. Yeah, because you trying to say, Kelvin.
It'll go really bad, really fast.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I see your face. Let me do it. Leave it. Don't say nothing. And you know.
Calvin, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say along the same lines, like maybe it could be taught in like a social history kind of way, like this is the development of, you know, a certain race of people, whichever one we're trying to study, and you know, this is something that became a part of their way of creating a community, like studying its place in the culture, its place in our history. But trying to actually teach how to code switch, like as in hopefully you can walk out of here and code switch yourself, is gonna go real wrong real quick.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Mean Girls meets Bring It On in the most horrible way you can imagine, and ain't nobody got time for that.
Really?
What if we taught it as like the psychology of language and asked kids to kind of examine how they interact in different settings? Because we already have them in school kind of looking at how they interact in different settings with like how they present you're a different version of yourself in front of your parent versus in front of your friends versus in front of your teachers. So you're already thinking in that way. What about if we had to focus on literally the language that they use? Is the language you're using in this setting appropriate? We have them do it when they write. Huh?
I mean, it could even be under a larger umbrella. It could even be a larger umbrella of seeing the patterns of words, like how we always refer to guys as guys, men, and they're always like, but my girl, my baby, you know, they always, when they're referring back to us, it's always with terms of making us childlike. So it could go even under that larger idea of studying language and how preference for certain words, even though we have alternative options, it's kind of an indication of how we see the subject we're talking about.
I also have, so my follow-up question to that would be, Lokita says, like looking at like Creole and like Patois, like, because those are like, it's not, that we could totally examine that as well. And like, should slang Ebonics be considered its own form, its own dialect?
It is African.
I mean, when I say considered, because I feel like it's not really recognized the way that it should be recognized. I feel like it's not.
Isn't it like a slang dictionary?
It's not. I feel like it's just associated with us, and I feel like it's
but we protect it. We don't want nobody else to use
it.
Like it's
nothing to madness. We don't need nobody trying to speak patois.
And Lokita says it absolutely is recognized, and the history of it should be too.
The perfect example of this, what we're talking about now, is Drake, because he make one Caribbean song. Now all of us, like I'm telling you, he picks up culture so quick. Like, first of all, you're not even American, fam, and you out here like talking about He just does too much for me. Like,
I mean, but the argument can be, that's why people would get mad at Bruno Mars, because they're like, oh, Bruno Mars is culturally appropriating, and he's like, I'm Puerto Rican, how am I culturally appropriating?
Right.
You trying to be black, I'm Puerto Rican, like, how am I appropriating? I said I've been inspired by Michael Jackson. I never pretended to be inspired by anybody else. I'm paying homage, like I'm not. He constantly
Drake and Bruno are not the same thing. It's like and it's like old girl, what's her name? From Jane the Virgin. I don't remember her actual name right now. But she she identifies as a Latina,
Gina Rodriguez.
What you said?
Gina Rodriguez?
Yeah, her. She identifies as a Latina, but not as, she doesn't see that she has any black in her. But then she was caught on
when she dropped the
camera back, where she was like I think she said
N-bomb. Yeah, I remember that.
People lit her ass up because you can't, as they should, because you can't sit here and be like, oh, I'm Latina, but I'm not black, or I'm this, but I'm not this. But you quick to jump on the track, spit the bar.
You said jump on the track.
Like, you're doing too much. Like it's doing too much.
So speaking on that, building on that, my question would be: does code switching apply to every background?
No.
Yes.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Yes.
Why?
Because. All right, hold on.
Now Jack's Nation fucked up.
Let me find the question. Are we asking does code switch exist in other races besides black?
Because I feel like we're the ones that are always taught that we need to code switch. We need to be somebody else in other settings.
It absolutely exists for every immigrant.
They is like, no.
Group.
Yo, so who else would be signing up for this code switching course?
Every culture has, well, I don't know, Caucasians are really a culture, but every race, whatever, has a code switch. Like, they're not, the things that they say in their house with their family, they not saying out in the office until they know that person is gonna feel the same vibe.
Yes, that I agree. But
like, I'm not gonna go. Like, if I was a Caucasian person, I went to the water cooler to chat it up with Brad. And you know, Sasha is over here doing something. I'm not gonna be like, oh, yo, you see, they're gonna try to say something to gauge how another person feels, and then if they think they have the same point of view,
there's a different word for that, sweetheart. Racism. That's what that is.
Okay, they got a code switch. What you mean? They're not, but they're not.
Is that a code switch class or is that a?
They wear.
Let's not be racist class.
They wait.
Is that a racial sensitivity training? I don't.
But I see. I think I gauge what you're trying to say here. But I feel like code switching is the wrong term for that kind of ignorance.
But it is. Really it's still ignorant, but it's their version. Like
But that's why I'm asking, would that be code switching that they need to learn, or would that be racial sensitivity that they need to be in? Like what? For that really person. Not to say that all
he's not making it to one person. He's saying
Caucasians fall under that umbrella, because that's not the case. Just like all black people don't need to learn how to code switch.
Right.
There are some people.
Well, I mean, even
I think the example she was using was one where racism. I think the specific example she was using is one where racial sensitivity might need to be the answer. But I do believe that, like, let's say, so two people who are from Ghana enter a room full of black people, like it's Black Americans and we're the two Ghanaians, right? And let's say it's about our nails, getting our nails done. And we see someone who's left-handed, she got nails on her hand, it's all great. Me and the other Ghanaian might look at each other and be like,
oh, how's she gonna wipe her ass or something?
No, it's because we only use one hand to eat. The other hand is never used in a meal. Ever. So people don't get their nails done, at least in Ghana and most African countries, they're not getting their nails done as elaborately as they're getting their other hand. But in America, it's like you got to do both hands. How would you not? Ghana, we would be looking at you crazy. But that's a code switch. You know what I mean? Like if we decided to verbalize this, we would have to say it in a way that they wouldn't understand it. We'd have to code switch and, back and forth.
Okay.
I feel you.
Huh. Interesting.
So I guess the gist of all this is like there's cultural and social code switching too, because with Asia's example, I think it was more like when you are if you are somebody of a certain culture, like you grew up in Texas and like you got the Confederate flag in front of your house, the way you talk in your house, you're not gonna talk like that at work where Sasha works with her twist out. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna behave a certain way at a certain time. So I guess that would be a part of that. Even though that culture is whack as fuck, it's still cultural, code switching. So I'm just saying.
Yo.
That's the nice
ever the filter free woman.
I just
So other than finances, is there anything else you feel like, what do you feel you've picked up on or had to learn by yourself that you felt like, this should have totally been taught? Or what do you feel like they've taken out of schools that need to go back? Or what do you feel like they teach in schools which you're like, that shouldn't be in school at all?
Script. Stop kids from writing cursive, and I'm sick of it.
It's not even just the writing, it's the reading. Just please learn how to read it.
Talk about sign your name and they writing in regular print. Like, sign your damn name. Why do you not know how to do that?
Yeah,
what is the matter?
I'm telling you, a lot of check fraud.
I'm telling you, it's coming back. The scam is about to be lit, cause
yeah, they won't be able to write that's true. Yeah, Loquita loves cursive. Same. It's very pretty, and they're taking out all of the analog clocks. They're putting digital clocks because the kids can't tell time. So instead of teaching kids how to tell time, they're putting in the digital clocks to make it easier.
That's true.
I mean, because theoretically we all have cell phones, and our cell phones just tell us the time. So is that really a skill that is even necessary anymore?
Yes.
There has to be an evolution. She said, damn.
I get it. we outdated. I understand. We old, but like, geez. Come on now.
I would say, communication and home, like cooking, like home economics, like just like basic home skills. You know, like don't put your reds and your whites in the laundry machine when you're doing your laundry. Because when you get to college, you got to do your own laundry.
But okay, like, is that a skill that we should mandate, or is that a class that we should offer that you can choose to take if you want?
No, some people offer anybody dying if they don't know how to do their laundry. You gonna learn when your shit comes out looking pink. You gonna learn eventually not to put this shit together. But like, you know, those are classes that should be offered. You know, kind of like as extra credits or things like that, just to get people more prepared. I feel like students come out of college knowing all the stuff in the books, but don't know how to be functioning human beings.
But like theoretically, how would we teach a kid how to watch? Like, how do we? We just tell you don't mix it, don't put a red sock in with your whites. That's not a whole class. So like, how like in practice?
It was like a home class, like to learn how to be living in home.
It was a class like that, like back
many years ago.
Like laundry class, like home class.
Home ec.
Like,
that's what Lookita said. It was home ec.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
But like I'm saying, with our current budget. As a public school, how do we provide that kind of?
Listen, Moneybag Joe gonna have to pony up.
I mean, you could use creative art projects. So like instead of real clothes, use like the very thin color papers, and have them have like a little plastic plate bowl or whatever of water, and pretend that that's the laundry. Like, what happens when these colors mix in, and you add like a chemical to it, like. I don't know, something from their arts supplies, a paint cleaning supply. What happens to that? Make it a science project. Like, this is laundry and science. You want to know how you're going to use science? Laundry.
That's true.
You don't want to ruin your new dress? Don't put the bleach in there. That's how you don't ruin it.
Right.
You know?
I gotta say, if I'm being honest, I would not sign up for these classes. I don't cook. I don't do my laundry. I pay for somebody to do my laundry. I pay for somebody to make my meals. I'm not doing it.
You can only add an incentive. Like, hey, you guys cook this. And then
that's why I said, would this be something that we mandate or make optional? Because if you try to mandate me, guess what class I'm not going to? That one. Lookita says, I don't think laundry should be taught in school. Your motherfucking parent needs to teach you that shit. And if they ain't around, trial and error. Science experiment. That's what she was saying as regards to that. But she thinks that for laundry, a guardian and adult should. Because like, where do we draw the line between what is the school skill that you learn here and what life skill your parents teach you?
Not everybody got parents like that.
Well, right.
It needs to be in a school. It do at least for people cleaning up.
Like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, where do we draw the line between what is like, it is the school's responsibility to make sure you have this knowledge versus, it's your guardian's responsibility to make sure you know how to do that. Because when the argument is made, like when we try to do sex ed, a lot of parents be like, "Don't talk to my kid about sex." So like, where do we draw the line between what is the school's job and what's the parents' job?
I think at all times it's a combination of efforts. It's the parents and the school. There are things that the parents could say to the kid, and the school has to kind of underline that. Like if they're saying, "Hey, don't treat people the way you don't want to be treated," when they go to school, they have to see that in order for that to really stick with them. And the same happens vice versa. If your teacher's like, "Hey, you got to learn how to share," and then you go home, it's your parent who's got to reinforce that. So a lot of our messages were reinforced in both spheres before they stuck. The moment there was a contradiction, then we had a problem because we're like, "Oh, well, I have to do this at home, but at school, I don't have to." Right. So
yeah, because they were definitely like, "Don't put your hands on anybody in school," and my father was like, "They touch you, beat their ass."
Right, and that creates a conflict. So now you feel like you
there wasn't no conflict. I'm listening to my father. My father said, "You touch me, I got the right to beat your ass."
But that's right point. that's the point you're trying to make. Like, it may not be conflict for your dad, but your school was like, this little black girl put her hands on people. Like, that's the thing that goes around.
I didn't start the fires, Zay.
It don't matter. It still burned.
It don't matter. It could have gone wrong for you. You were lucky it didn't go wrong for you. There are plenty of scenarios where it does go wrong. Like, there was a video I saw on Twitter maybe 2 days ago where this white girl was beating up this Muslim student, and everybody, including the principal in the room, didn't do shit to stop her. But then some black girl comes out of nowhere, snatches the white girl by her hair like the ancestors powered themselves through her, and beat her ass for doing it. And the moment she did, the principal comes in, takes the black girl off her, and suspends the black girl.
Right. And that's when
she didn't try to do. She was trying to suspend the girl and got hit, and so she started beating the girl up. But she's the one who gets suspended. She's the one who gets dragged away.
Right.
Not the person who actually instigated the whole thing.
Damn.
Right.
Lakita
so it's
said
like, it
that she told her kids to defend herself and let her handle the school. Lots of people are scared to get in trouble.
Arrested.
Oh, you did see that? Yeah, no, I didn't see that. No. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that there is a blanket way for us to all be on the same page of like, okay, the school is gonna do this and you, the parent, is gonna do that, because we see it every day. Like, Jax, you can't tell me that there will be in school like trying to be like, all right, do your homework, and then the kid goes home, they don't do the homework, and then now we sitting at conferences and the parents are like, why is my kid failing? I don't know. Like, so where do we decide, or where do we not place blame, but like, how are we sharing this load? Like, where are we determining what is our responsibility as the educational system? What are we determining is going to be on us to teach, to inform, to educate? And then as your guardian, what is on you? Because brings up a good point. Laundry probably should be on the parent. That should be. Should I be teaching you to cook, or is that a parent thing? So that if your kid gets burned by the stove, that's within your home. Because if y'all got to go to the hospital for a burn, mom or dad, grandma or guardian has to pay those bills. I got it. You know what I mean? Like, just asking the questions.
I'm gonna be totally and completely transparent here. I respect what y'all do as teachers, but I do feel like the reason why I respect it so much is because teachers, y'all don't know that y'all save lives a lot of the time. Like, I know you're saying like it shouldn't really be, a lot of this home stuff shouldn't really be on the schools, but personally speaking, not everybody has the littest home situation. So some of the stuff that we needed to know or should have known or whatever, or the care we should have gotten, or the responsibility that should have been taken for us, we did not get that at home. So some stuff needs to be learned in school because it's the only safe place we have. So you're saying where the lines blur or stop or whatever, I feel like there should be, I don't know, some sort of you can even like blend it with social services or whatever, but some sort of system in place where kids that don't have that, like you said, the parents are like, why is my kid failing? Your kid is failing because you're a trash parent. Like that, they don't put that together. Like, no, seriously,
please don't let Jack say that in a Jax, you're not allowed to say that during a
listen, I don't work with kids, so I can say that. It's fine. I'll say it for her. But you know, I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
you know, not every kid,
yeah,
as parents that even give a shit, and that's like 110%. Like, so I feel like the stuff that, you know, needs to be taught, and like the simple stuff that you would think like, yo, shouldn't your mom have told you how to do this? Like, even stuff like when we are dealing with kids that are going through puberty, and it's stuff like getting your period or growing pubic hair. They parents don't care enough to teach them about that. It's like, oh, you bleeding? There's a pad, enjoy. Like, certain parents are really like that. So it's really important to have like hygiene courses, how to clean your clothes, what to do when things go. Like, yes, it sounds like a lot. It sounds very, you know, a big job, especially for teachers who are very underpaid and underappreciated. But that's why I said Moneybag Joe need to come up off the racks and support the people, because parents, just because you're a parent, do not make you a mom or dad. True. And that's fact. Sometimes you just biologically gave birth to a kid and that's it. Yeah. And it's, and schools, save these kids, even just as simple as like having somewhere to go 8 hours a day that's not at home. Like, that's important. Like,
I'm not arguing the importance of school. I just do believe as an educator we should have boundaries. Now, if you develop a rapport with a student, and I do have students that like I'm well aware of their home life. I'm well aware of what's going on. So I do definitely make exceptions of like when they're like, yo, Antoinette, I can't tell my mom. Like you remember we had a kid like that in our advisory jacks. So where it was like they felt more comfortable talking to us about what was going on when they were questioning their sexuality because their parent was like, absolutely not. So we were able to provide some insight, answer questions. But I do think there should be boundaries at least set. Now, if you decide you're going to cross that boundary, that should be situational. But I do think that there should be like a line drawn, some clear cut like lines. Because if there's no boundary, then there's no guidance.
I get that for the sake of your job and for the student.
Yeah. Because the last thing I need to be is in my boss's office trying to defend like why I tried to explain to the kid what her menstruation was. Like,
right.
That's whose job is that? Am I supposed to just let you sit there and be thoroughly confused and have a panic attack, or am I supposed to help you? You know what I mean?
Where do those kids go? For the boundary that you're talking about, because some boundaries need to be crossed. So for the boundary that you want to instill, who helps the kids that need those boundaries crossed?
You go right to the social worker.
He said, Jesus.
Fam. Loquita says, I wonder what the difference is between the type of student I was and others, because both my parents worked, latchkey kid, and I never had an issue. My brother and I got it done and kept it moving, but not everyone can do that. So where is the difference?
So my mom worked up until I was a freshman. She worked from 10 at night. She worked from 2 in the afternoon to 10 at night. So I didn't see her. Like, I had to like be on my shit on my own. And then like the only person that was really strong in math in my family passed away right before I turned 9. So like I literally had no choice but to learn how to do shit on my own. So it's really more like if the student has it in them to want to learn. Because granted, like my mom wasn't like your dad or Antoinette's mom with like straight A's. She just cared. The only time she worried, like if something was wrong with me mentally or emotionally, was if I got anything less than an A in math or science. Because if I got anything less than that, that means something was going wrong and I needed some help. But like English and history, she was like, as long as you don't get a D, I'm all good. Granted, I was an honor student all high school except for one semester, but we're not gonna talk about that because it was 1 point. But like, so like I had to grow up fast. Like I had to make sure me and my sister got home safe from elementary school because my mom worked 2 to 10. And then like by the time I was in high school, like she was like, I've never seen you do homework at home. Do you even, like, how do you have these grades? And I'm like, because I do my homework in class when I finish my classwork. So I don't have shit to do when I get home, or like I'm staying in after school. So it's really more like the student on top of the parent. Because the parent doesn't necessarily have to be on top of the student. The student can just want to be better than what you have. Like my mom, granted, she graduated high school 6 months early and she was pregnant with me. So like to me, I'm like, if my mom could do that and be pregnant, then I can get my shit together without getting pregnant myself. Like when my mom wanted to go back to college, I was a freshman in high school teaching her how to do fractions and algebra to get her ready to go to college. Because like granted, she got a high school diploma, but she was like, listen, I did just enough. Like I understand how to do it, but like I haven't done this shit in over 10, 15 years. So I'm like, it's also the student. Like granted, yes, there's parents that's like, oh, I don't really give a shit. And I have friends that's like, oh, whatever you do, like just don't come home with these or don't disrespect the teacher. But it's also like, there's some parents that really can't help you because they don't have the skills. and they're, instead of being like, oh, you in school, you are being dumb, they blame the kid instead of saying like, hey, can you sit down, and can I come meet with you so I can understand what my child is doing so I can better help them, or do you have resources? They're just, oh, it's the kid, you in school all day, how you don't know this? So there's a multitude of things. There's no one thing to pinpoint.
Yeah.
I think you can't really mandate it. I think it has to be situational and it has to be offered. And then the people who really feel like, you know what, this is something I could benefit from, allow them to take it. So that way the student who needs to be somewhere, anywhere other than home for like extra 2 or 3 hours after their 8-hour school day can pick that class up and have it be something that they do, versus having to, because then at least the parent knows what's coming. So if you don't like what's coming, hey, you knew it ahead of time and you agreed. And the teacher also gets the option to be like, do I want to teach this or do I want to not teach it? Do I just want to stick to my regular work schedule, no clubs, no nothing, and call it a day? Because if you try to mandate, what you're going to end up having is either a teacher who's resentful that they're stuck here having to teach this shit, or a parent that's upset about what they're getting taught, what's getting taught to their kids. So either way, you're going to have people resentful, and the only person that ends up suffering is the kid that's in the class.
Right.
Facts.
I don't feel pressured to teach much of anything at my school, luckily. When they tell me like, hey, this is the subject we want you to cover, I have free control essentially of how I plan to educate my youngsters. So I like to try to mirror the content as much to real life as possible. So for example, teaching math, every unit is based in reality. So the first unit, when we started working with like number sense, and we worked with like integers, negatives and positives, their project was, you got to balance the checkbook. You owe some people some money, you got a couple dollars, balance this checkbook and tell me how much money you actually have at the end of these transactions. Because the kids didn't really have a firm understanding. I'm like, if your friend owes you $50, but they have $100, they really have that $100. And at the start of it, many of them was like, yeah, because they said they had $100. Like, they didn't understand the concept of debt. And I'm working with 12 to 1 students. So what that means is that these kids, despite their grade being 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, are typically more than 2 grades. They perform more than 2 grades below the grade they're actually in. So if you're in 6th grade, you are performing academically at a 3rd grade or lower. My highest performing student in that cohort performs on a 4th grade level. So I try to give them challenging math problems to work with, but I'm trying to root it in reality. I'm trying to root it in skills they're going to use in real life. So when we're working with percentages and I'm teaching them about taxes, I'm like, yo, you're going to be paying taxes. You're going to, you pay taxes now. When you go to McDonald's and the thing says 99 cents and it's really $1.09 at the end of that, you just pay taxes. Like, we went to war for this. No taxation without representation. You can't vote. So I'm trying to tell them things that are going to apply to them outside of the classroom, because I feel like I was shortchanged in my own education up until a certain point, up until I got to college where I got to pick my classes, until I could choose what I learned. I feel like I don't remember much of what I learned, and I want them to remember the lessons. That's why when we do math, it's not even like memorize this, use your calculator, because when we go out to eat and we gotta split the bill, ain't nobody doing math we can do the math in our heads, but we can use a calculator. We all could pull out our cell phones, use a calculator. So I'm trying to very much focus on teaching you how to help yourself, but also teaching you based on what you're gonna use as an adult now. So I done turned my classroom into like, your classroom is your job, and your desk, your seat, that's that's your house. You got to pay rent for that. Like, and the kids literally had to like learn how to like balance. And they were like, so what happens if I don't pay rent? Well, now you got to sit on the beanbag. And the kids were like, I'm a legit and so kids were like, I don't have enough to pay my cell phone. And you saw kids trying to like, I'll lend you some money so you can pay your bills. And it was really interesting to see like which kids were like, I'm gonna save, which kids were like, I'm gonna spend everything in the class store. But I'm trying to instill, because I don't want nobody turning out like Jax, you know, be like, fuck it, I don't pay. I love you, Jax. No, Jax is definitely very, very good with numbers and money. That's why when I need money, I'll be like, Jax, let me hold a couple dollars. But that's why I care deeply about trying to teach transferable skills that go beyond the classroom. Because, like, if you can't, cool, you could graph a line, but what you gonna do with that line when you get out of school?
Civil engineer.
I mean, but if that's not what you want to do, like, so that's why I'm trying to put it with things. I'm trying to find projects that kind of connect it to stuff they're gonna use in everyday life. You have to balance a checkbook. You got to pay taxes. You're gonna have to calculate discounts. Everybody likes to shop. You know what I mean? So I'll be trying to work it out like that. Look, says, it isn't the job of the teacher to be a parent, but I wouldn't be upset if my daughter got her period at school and panicked, but a teacher helped her out. See, some parents would. Some parents would be like, you crossed the line while you talking to my teacher about her chocha. So that's why I'm like, there should be some boundary set. And then if that boundary needs to be overstepped, social worker, handle that. Pop in there, like swimwear. You know what I mean? You know? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So, do we have any final thoughts? Any final questions? We unpacked a lot. This was a really good, interesting conversation. Chat, do you have any final questions? Any follow-up questions you'd like to see us ask for the next episode?
Do I have follow-up questions?
I just said chat. I said, do you, Jax, have final thoughts?
Got you. I got you.
Do you have final thoughts, hosts, co-hosts? Chat, if there are any questions you would like us to answer, I just dropped the link to the Discord, so join that. Tell us in the Discord. But go ahead, Calba.
Final thoughts. You know, we should start treating school prior to college the way we treat college a little bit, where it's like you have your general required classes, and then the rest of it is your pick of the lot. You know? And I think we can do that. We can, one, have a lot more satisfied and happy people in general because they're able to learn the basics and then go off to what they like. Because I think I enjoyed college mainly because I was taking classes I like. So yeah, I'm gonna stay awake. Yeah, I'm gonna want to do the homework and the projects and the classes, and because I'm in classes with assumed like-minded people, I'm making friends versus being forced into a class I hate, don't understand it, and now I'm stuck with other people who also don't want to be here, so we don't want to do the homework. We're paying half as much attention as we should be. Like, that was part of, like, Math B Regents in high school. Depressing as hell. I don't want to be there. When have I used Math B?
Oh, I didn't have to take those Regents.
I did, and it was the worst thing ever. I hated it. I hated it with such a passion. But yeah, that's my final
face because you're frozen again. You can see the hate.
Oh, good lord. Well, you know what? We're at the end of our episode anyway, so that wraps up another episode of the WeHQ.
Zajax, y'all got final thoughts?
My final thought, I guess, would be parents and schools need to work together better. Because if they did, we wouldn't even be having this question in the first place. If we got it right, it takes a village to raise a child, and that village should be the educational system and their familial peoples at home. So
that village should be in Wakanda.
Y'all know, C's get degrees.
Oh my god!
Oh, but seriously,
I cannot
throw her away.
Really, just find your passion in something that you're learning in school, and then grow from that. Really, like you'll have a happy life, happy educational life. You know, just find a subject that you really enjoy, and then find something in that subject that you can do for the rest of your life.
You got it, Lokita. Join the Discord. Let's chop it up. Let's work this out. We would love to have you. And with that, Kalba, take us out, boo.
Boom! That wraps up another episode of the WeHQ. Thank you guys so much in the chat. And thank you to our guests, Zay and Ajax, and our co-host, Nerdvana. The special link has been dropped below in the chat if you want to be a guest or you want to be sending in your questions. We have so many more questions, and I know y'all do too. So please send it to the WeHQ. Let us know. And also, special thanks to our sponsor, Mixy Licks. You lit libations for every kind of conversation. And those of you who have friends who don't do Discord, trust me, I understand. The episode will be on YouTube tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Nerdvana 83. And we out.
Bye. Bye.